I need a motion to call the Town Board Business Workshop, November 8th, 2012 to order, please.
So moved.
Second.
Salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have a moment of silence for the military in this country and those serving out of this country. Thank you. The emergency exit is on the right, your left, and the rear. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Reamer?
Here.
Councilwoman Perotti?
Here.
Councilman Haas?
Here.
Councilwoman Doyle? Here. And Supervisor Flood?
Here. Public comments. Highway report. Town clerk report.
The town clerk only has two things. Number one, the snow removal ad is in the paper.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And number two, the clerk's office will be closed on Monday because it's Veterans Day. And that's it.
We are closed also.
The whole
The
town.
whole building is
Okay.
closed.
And the public hearing notice made it in for the budget?
Yes.
Nice, thank you.
Committee reports, Mike?
Is there one for me or no?
Yeah, well, I'll give you this one.
I don't need, I just don't want them to be sure. This is if you're sure. I'll give you
Oh,
this
we'll
one.
share.
For sure. That's it. I'd like to put these in the budget, so absolutely.
I guess I'll start with the Mosaic Trail to the Train grant because we did put in some claims to the Department of Transportation and they combined them all together. And I think the town did just get a check for $41,600 for, to help reimburse for the design fee, part of the design fee. And also the DOT is reviewing the preliminary design that WSP Cells has submitted. And I've asked them to, expedite their review so that we can get input on their comments and try to get that design report finalized. But it is good news, I think, to get that, start getting some money from the Department of Transportation. And also the Greenway grant, all the revenue from that has been now received. So of the 57,000, I think you've gotten back about 51,000. And we could probably still recoup some more funds through the Dormitory Authority grant if that, once we get to a contract stage. So some design could possibly go for that, but you may need all of that for construction. And I did.
The right-of-way is required for that, right?
Yes, that's a budgeted amount. I think right now it's estimated to be $5,000 or $10,000 for that portion of it for legal.
But I think that was one of their requirements before they would release the money.
Yes, yes. Although I did, since we last spoke, I did send to them a copy of the design report, a copy of the grant application, which they had requested, a list of all the sources of funding that we already have, and the town's local match. So I've given them everything they need, really, to give us a contract.
Who gets the right-of-ways? We do that, or is that done by the DOT?
It's up to the town as the sponsor to do it, and it would be probably through a contracted design engineer. I mean, WSP Cells would be in a good position.
WSP Cells had people who actually do that type of work.
Yeah, the first step is really to delineate where the trail is, because
That's all done. So at this point, where are they with the easements?
Well, we have to get the DOT to give us, they had promised to send you a
22.
letter, which they have, so I have to
Right,
follow
they
up
have
with
not
them.
sent.
They have not, you did not get any letter yet from the Department of Transportation?
No.
So, yeah, I'll follow up with them, Bill, because they did promise to send all their comments on the design report.
Mm-hmm.
So once that's finalized, then that would be the next step, is to go towards the right-of-way acquisitions.
But I don't think it's been through all the departments yet.
No, there's a lot of people who have to sign off on
Yeah,
this.
that's what they told us when we first sent it.
It is a complex project. You're talking about going on the Metro North land for most of it, and the private owner's land, and the Department of Transportation's land. And I've heard.
Yeah, I
through-
think when the last time we asked about it, they pretty much told us it has to go through a lot of departments and we'll let you know.
Right,
I would
but it
think
doesn't-
though, at some point, if Metro North's not gonna allow it, we should know that fairly soon before we spend any more money.
You're right, although I think they've been receptive to this. They
Right,
know
they have
about
been.
it. They're very supportive of it. It's really just a matter of identifying, like, the acreage that would be part of this. But I'll follow up on that. That's a good question. I did apply for the Community Development Block Grant also. I have a copy of that for $150,000 that could help bridge the gap between the revenue that, or the grant money that you still need for the full price tag of this project. I think it would make a lot of sense for Dutchess County to support this because it is really providing a new handicapped accessible route to the hamlet from the train station. That was the gist of the application, because they only will fund projects that improve handicapped accessibility, which it has to meet the requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act, so this really is a handicapped accessibility project. As a matter of fact, one of the original letters of support that we got for the grant was from a person with a handicap who would benefit from this. And then I have to follow up on Willow Lane because we're under a deadline for that grant. It's a community development block grant, and you've been sending some emails, Bill, so I will follow up with that to make sure that we're good with that and can still recoup the $111,000.
Well, yeah, but there's an issue. The contractor put the pipe, it's done on the easement, so we're trying to work that out now.
Okay,
So-
so maybe we'll have to,
Has to be completed by the end of November. They won't give us any more extensions. So it needs to get done.
Well, as soon as the engineer and the surveyor, and I think, Ian, you've been working with Wheeler on this thing about the
I
easement?
met with him last Friday.
Yeah.
And he wanted to have a meeting with you and highway superintendent.
Well, I don't know what the meaning is. I told him it's gotta be fixed. You know, if the
Okay.
contractor made a mistake, they gotta fix it. You know, we're
And the
not,
contractor
And
apparently acknowledges that and is willing to do the
right, the repairs that the people want done have to be done.
correct.
So, you know, it's gotta be done.
Do we have a time when it's going to be done? This grant has to be closed by the end of November or we're going to lose the money.
Okay.
So
we-
time is of the essence here.
Well, they've got one extension already, so maybe they can get another one.
No, they won't give us another one.
well, I can certainly, let me make some phone calls on that to see. you know,
There's an
get
issue
her-
with the contractor, not with us.
Right, so let me see what I can do. I'll
It's
call-
done other than that.
Right. Have you submitted, do you have the copies of the invoices and all?
Not yet. I can get them from Wheeler, I would assume.
All right, let me follow, I'll work with you on that.
But I
The
think-
only problem with asking for another extension is that they may assess us a penalty. And that's right in the documentation.
Well, let's try to do something because it's worth saving. It's a lot of money.
The other thing is that at some point, I would assume the ground, once the ground freezes, I don't know.
Well, we're a ways away from that, but I told Wheeler we weren't gonna pay anything until he fixed it. So, it's on him.
Well, they need to do it now.
Wheeler made it sound like they're the property owner. There was indecisiveness about what he was willing to agree to correct it, something like that. So I don't know if that's true or not.
The last conversation I had with them was that they wanted us to do something, to donate money in lieu of something or whatever, so we're not doing that. We're not going there. So it's gotta be, fixed.
It has to be done according to the approved
Specs,
plans. I mean,
right.
you can't vary from the plans, otherwise there's no grant.
There's no question it was the contractor
Yeah.
goofs. They've got to fix it.
Can you expedite that, Mike? It's just,
I'll have to make some calls to see where
Yeah.
it stands and, how I can help with that. Yeah, I mean, ask for an extension, you mean, or to get it?
No, just to get it done.
just to get it done.
To fix this problem, like to relocate the pipes, is that what you mean, or?
It has to be done according to the specs of the
Who have you
plans.
spoken to? I mean, are you supposed to meet with someone or what's happening here?
I met with Dan Wheeler, and we went out to the site, and he showed me what the problem was. So I'll talk to him tomorrow and tell him that it's just gotta be, they've gotta do the work. Yeah, I agree, I'm not sure what the purpose of another meeting would be, but that's what he thought.
It's just like, get it done.
Yeah,
Get it done or suffer the consequences.
right.
Because we're not just going to take this lying down if we lose this grant. He's responsible.
Correct, yeah.
Well, so is the engineer, so is the surveyor. They did it without doing a survey, so that's part of the issue. The survey was never staked when they did the work, so there's some issues that have to be corrected.
Yeah, I'm not sure whose responsibility that is.
The engineer.
Yeah.
Well, that does have an impact on, future grants, your track
It
track
certainly
record.
does.
Not being able to draw down the funding, because we are looking to get more money from Dutchess County, so it would pay to finish it. We also got the money from NYSERDA, $39,467, came in about a month ago, I believe. I'm
Yep.
putting together the final report for that, which will close that grant out.
And where was that money allocated to?
They paid the bills.
Paid what bills?
The insulation, electrical work,
Lighting.
light bulbs. I think that was it.
That's good. So that will, there's other programs too that I'm pursuing now with them, existing facilities and that rebate program.
Yeah, Mike and I are going to do that. I already downloaded the form. All we need are the bills from the lights. And we can, with the form, we can send that into existing facilities and we can get an additional incentive.
I'm going to be
For the
working with
lighting.
Sherry to get well, she did give me already the cost.
Yeah, actually, I spoke to them a few months ago. There's not a lot of money available for the existing facility.
No, but it's something. It may help, at least.
I think $3,000 maximum.
Maybe, I think it's more like 5 possibly. Because
They told me $3,000 for air conditioning, that would be it. And then, because it's based on a 60-ton air conditioning load.
Uh-huh.
But there's money available for the lights.
We fixed the lights.
I know you did. That's why we can get additional money from existing facilities, because we just need to turn the bills in. I already have the form we need to send in.
All right, I'll work
Mike
with
and I will
Victoria.
work on that.
Yeah, I'll work on that to get the most.
See if we can get whatever we can get.
Then everything else is here. I did meet with Pete Sotero. He helped me do the final report, or quarterly report for the hazard mitigation grant. He did submit to CMO a copy of his engineer plan for Tower Hill Road to improve the drainage there. This is the first time we did get this type of grant, and I think all of his invoicing will be eligible for reimbursement no matter what. We're hoping now that CMO will approve his plan so that the construction can begin in the spring for that. So I thought that was good news. Pete was very helpful. He's done 100% of the engineering. It's just now up to CMO to approve that, because he's deviated a little bit from the original plan that we had.
But they did say they would work with us.
Yes.
So we didn't have to follow it to the letter. They said they would work with us.
The only other grant that I wanted to mention was the Arts Place grant. Bill and I met with the representatives of the Wassaic project, Bowie Zanino and her husband, and we had a good meeting. I offered to help look at their proposal. They wrote a letter of intent to Arts Place looking for a $300,000 grant to kind of help with the revitalization of Wassaic. They would have an interesting project of pop-up businesses in the hamlet. So they did submit a letter of intent. I helped write something about the Trail to the Train grant, because that is a big part of the revitalization of Wassaic. And Bill and I met with them and offered to help and provide technical assistance for the town. So that was a positive meeting. A lot happened. The town did get significant revenue in the last month for some of these grants. I'm hoping to continue to develop claims and to seek new grant money.
They have a pretty good shot at this grant.
Yeah, I thought it was very good. It was very well written. It was edited carefully. The only thing is it's a small community and it's a national grant, but it's,
But
it's
it's
pretty
for
good
rural
to be.
communities.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. The only, and then, of course, I don't know, did you want me to mention Main Street now?
Let's do it right now, then we can get it.
We did, hopefully you have copies of the the grant applications. I think a lot of the landowners put a lot of time in and did an excellent job because there was a lot of work. Not everyone who we wanted to is going to participate. We did do what we could to market. I think we've got about 5 solid applications. I don't think there's enough money to fund everything that everyone wants done, but we could certainly have a big impact. Several of the landowners who were part of the original grant are participating. This grant is garnering some attention from Albany, so it would behoove us. So we're already at the midway point, so I'm really hoping to get to the contract stage with the landowners at least by the end of the year so that we could start getting quotes for the renovations at least by spring, because the grant has to be done by the end of next year.
So where are we with these now? We just have to meet with the board? Is that?
Yeah, I would like to meet with, have you review them and just make sure that they do meet the criteria, which I think they do. And then kind of just make a decision
So we
based
need to
upon,
set a time for that?
if we could.
The sooner the better.
Yeah, I don't know what your
Well,
availability
you're
is.
just getting them tonight, right? So you haven't seen these, correct?
You might need a week or so to
Yeah, they're
review.
gonna need a little time. So why don't we set a date next week,
All right,
after they take a look at them?
okay. You want me to say who they are? Or?
Sure.
Well, Barrett and Sue Patel have applied for the Amenia Variety Building on West Main Street. Another, let me just,
5329 Route 44.
right, it's good to go by address. Claire Houlihan has applied for 3296 Route 343. The Masons Building put together a very strong proposal, is looking to, for funding to, for painting. Barrett and Sue Patel at 5329 Route 44. They're also looking for funding for painting the apartments, carpeting, and for a boiler. About 21,000. Both of those, there's about 21,000. Diana Harold and Grisha Alexev at 5322 Route 44. They want to fix the porch. There's several. They have, several building renovation issues they're hoping to fund. It's also a strong proposal, I thought. The Amenia Free Library has put together a very good proposal, a modest request of $2,500 for lighting and for storm window replacements. And then Colette Moss has 3304 Route 343, the Moss Building. She has also put together a very strong proposal with cost estimates, looking for foundation work, roof repair, front facade repair, painting, and renovations to the upper floors. So they're all strong proposals. They all put a lot of time in. They gave us the background material we requested.
Is that all of them?
Well, yes, those were, yeah, that's what we got so far, I had talked to Ann Linden. She was going to apply, but decided not to because of various concerns about the requirements of the grant. But she's very supportive of the grant. She just feels there's not enough money possibly to fund everything that needs to be done. And Bill,
And my wife and I put one in on.
yes, and Bill has also applied for the Green Leaf Cafe, with about $5,500 for window replacements. So it's good to get, strong participation. It's $160,000. We also have $25,000 for streetscape improvements. So, and $10,000 for grant administration.
In reading these, is there any additional criteria than the application material that we should think about that would, you know, kind of point us in the right direction? Or will the next meeting be setting up the criteria that we're looking for? Or how do you view going forward with it?
Well, that's a good question. I think that, well, under the grant criteria, one of the top priorities is health and safety of the buildings and making sure that the buildings are more livable and more attractive. And also proposals that would have the biggest impact on downtown Amenia, the biggest visual impact. Because we originally applied to improve the gateway to Amenia, starting at Fountain Square. So anything in that area that would have a big visual impact should be a priority. But it would be up to you really to decide what the local priorities are.
Yeah.
I had always,
But there is a smart growth criteria guidance. Doesn't that
yes,
come with it?
yes, like the
And
idea.
project compliance and impact statement, we should give that to everyone.
All of the
Let them have
projects
it.
do meet the criteria of having a mixed-use building, having a commercial space and residential space.
Did they submit photographs? Because I don't see any here. Did they submit?
They did, some did, I didn't
Dig.
include them,
Dig a bit. It's
just because of
towards the
copying, but not all. I do have some that I didn't give you, I guess, in those packets,
back. Okay,
which I can bring to the meeting.
okay.
And also, there's copies of deeds that you may not have, but I do have everything that we need, in the
Yeah.
originals. I didn't copy everything, just figured.
Yeah, everyone needs to have a copy of the criteria that came with that was part of the grant application.
I'll do a special one, though, like, make it easy to grade them, like we did with the RFQ for the Wassaic Trail to the Train, where everyone had to grade based upon certain criteria, which we have established, like 3 or 4 criteria.
Right.
Upper floor, residential, lower commercial, impact on downtown Amenia, improving handicapped accessibility, and improving the livability of the community. Those, I think, were the priorities we mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah, it's helpful when, you know, in reading that and seeing the photograph, like I noticed some of them are for the second floor, you know, if they just submit this and we're only looking at the street level, you know, it's just, it would be nice to have it all in one package so that as we're reading them, and you got the photograph, you know, that's how I work. I've got to see that image.
I will. I'll complete them, because some don't have the copies. Like
Okay.
Colette did have before and after, or what would be a rendering from the facade plan that Amenia did,
Yes.
which I thought was very good. She showed
Yes.
what the existing building is and then what it could look like.
Yes, I think that's helpful because, you know, if we're looking for impact, we need to look at how it would change. So, okay.
So
great.
we can set the meeting, you think, in the next couple of weeks?
Right.
Well, I think
It's-
once they take a look at everything, then we'll set it after next week's board meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
We
the
can
sooner,
start
the sooner the better, it'd be great.
Yeah, as soon as you get it
A
going.
lot of people are calling me about it, so.
Yeah, they're calling, the phone's ringing upstairs also.
Yeah,
Which is a good thing, I guess.
Right. Well,
they're excited, that's great.
thanks,
Well,
Mike.
thank you, Bill.
You have the 2013 preliminary budget proposed.
Now, what were the changes made? There was one change, the training went to $800, I think, for clerk.
Yep. Town board conferences went down 500 to 500. Training for justice went to 2,800. The town clerk training went to 800. 800. And then the mowing went to 12,000. They were the changes. You got the packets from the Amenia Board of Fire Commissioners. Their 213 proposed budget stays is at 195, increase from 191,300. The Wassaic Fire District went from 236,415 to 284,515. That reflects the purchase of a new truck payment of $47,000 a year. So we're going to have an increase in the Wassaic Fire District. The preliminary town budget is at 2.365. So we were under the 2% cap. We went up a penny over last year. We have to set a, we have to adopt this tonight, or just
No. We
move
need
it to
to
a
have-
public hearing?
We have to have a public hearing first before we can adopt it.
So we can make a motion to set a public, is it going to be just next meeting, or?
We did that.
We already did.
Oh, when is it?
You've already scheduled?
It's next Thursday.
Oh,
Yes,
next Thursday.
It's next week.
Okay.
It was in the paper today.
All right.
And then you'll have time to send it to the county.
What?
You'll have time to send it out to the county by the 20th.
Right.
The transfer station, Ian?
We're still waiting for DEC approval. I got an email back from Jim Constantino, which I forwarded to you, Bill.
Yep.
The hurricane apparently set DEC back a little bit, so that's delayed things by about a week. They think it's going to be about 2 weeks before they get determination. I think that corresponds with this 30-day time period that DEC gets. So once you submit the application for the registration, there's a 30-day period. If you don't hear anything from DEC, it's deemed to be approved. But they expect that they're going to get approval based on the meeting that they had
Right.
on October 19th. And they expect determination to be in another 2 weeks.
Ridgecrest Farms.
This is a mine land reclamation permit application with DEC. I have the application materials that were,
Does everybody get a copy?
they do, yeah. If you want.
Pass them down. Sure.
Thank you. I made copies, the document was too large to email to everyone.
It's better than trade seal.
You're welcome. This is same type of application as with Kent Hollow Mine. The only difference is this application, the property involved is within the soil mining overlay district. So it is a legal permitted use in the town is with a special use permit issued from the town board. There is a comment period on this application as well. The comment period ends on November 23rd. So the town does have the opportunity to comment on the application. You can also propose conditions that you want imposed on the permit itself.
Like hours of operation.
Hours of operation, access, how the trucks would access the mine. The mine limit setbacks, need for barriers to restrict unauthorized access, dust control, zoning prohibitions, which in this case you've got your own
Right.
procedure that has to be followed too. This board would have to issue a special use permit in order for Ridgecrest to operate the mine legally.
Because it reverts back to farmland, correct? That's part of our zoning.
That's, you can impose that condition, and I believe that would have been done at the time that the zoning amendment was approved, so I'm not sure. I didn't see anything in our file on that. You know, you can still impose that as a condition if you wanted to in issuing the special use permit. So that's a possibility.
This has to go into the comments, the new conditions that we want to have DEC consider would have to go into our letter before November 23rd.
You would have,
Yeah.
yes.
So we're
That's
under a
correct. You
tight
can-
deadline too, if we want to add additional conditions. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So in my mind, it's very foggy. We discussed an awful lot, but I can't remember what all is required in our zoning versus what we have agreed. But our special use permit is yet another opportunity to impose conditions and hours of operation and
That's correct.
access routes and transportation and
Correct.
noise level, that sort of thing.
In order for the mine to operate legally, the applicant is going to have to come before this, make the application before this board for a special use permit. And there are, in the zoning law, there are requirements that have to be met in order to meet the conditions for a special use permit, but you can also impose any additional conditions that you want.
So when are we going to get a chance to really go through all those options? I mean, I just, off the top of my head, remember that he said that he would fix the bridge, for instance, that goes over the creek, and he was going to keep a strip between the road and the stream. You know, he was going to keep the wooded barrier already between the road, the stream, and the current fields, and he would not extend past it. He was going to rotate it every 5 acres at a time. He would reclaim and then move on. In my mind, I don't remember what all is now has to be set in stone, rather than what he said he was willing to do for us, which was part of the granting of the, including him in the mining overlay.
Some of those issues may be addressed in the application for
In here.
for the mine land reclamation permit. But in order to operate the mine legally, they're going to have to apply to this board, and those issues could be determined.
Do we, you have to send that letter now for this, with this?
Well, in order to make comments on the DEC permit, yes, you
All
have
right, so
to.
do you want to check our zoning and go through this? No?
Well, there are only so many conditions the DEC will allow you to put on it.
Correct.
It's pretty simple, so I don't,
We don't need any special.
yeah, I mean, if this applicant's acknowledging already that they have to come to us, come to the town to
The only,
operate legally.
I mean, you may want to consider if there are any issues with setbacks or hours of operation. I think they're proposing to operate 6 days a week. That's something that, if that's an issue, I would recommend that you address it now. Well, it's still before DEC rather than
Because
wait.
that's one of the conditions that you can tack, or
Correct.
request to have tacked on.
Yes. And there should be some basis for your recommendation, but I would recommend that you do it now rather than wait before the application for a special use permit comes before the board.
Well, we currently have trucks, 6 days a week isn't unusual, because I'll tell you, at 8 o'clock when you would open your windows, there's a lot of truck traffic currently, and we are in a residential area, whereas that's less impacting residential. They're on a main road. But using that and fixing that road is critical, that they don't go and take they have land abutting and they're gonna have to fix that, bridge that allows them the access to the Sin Patch Road.
Well, that's part of the DEC permit. That has
So
to be
that
done.
definitely will be
Sure.
a part of it, that they will not be allowed to send their trucks back out through the hamlet. Okay.
CJ, is CAC looking at this? They got this? Do you know?
No,
We
they have,
did initially, we've all made a site visit out there when
as
we
part
were
of the
looking at it.
zoning, as part of the
Yes.
zoning
I remember,
amendment, but
yeah,
not recently.
I went out as well, but that was
Right.
way back.
And they said they would stay away from the environmentally sensitive marble outcropping. There's some kind of special,
Marble Knoll.
Marble
Yeah, we
Knoll.
went out
Marble
together,
Knoll.
remember?
Marble.
There's also a cemetery they have to be away
and
from.
the cemetery
Cemetery.
they weren't
Yeah.
gonna come close to.
Yeah, and there
The-
was an issue
the
with the bridge
island-
flooding that they were
The
gonna
islands,
fix.
they stay away from that.
Yeah, that was the
That part of
marble.
it, right.
Right.
So those are issues that you may want to raise with DEC. Now, I didn't send a copy of this to the CAC, I can do that. And,
Right, and then there is a link on AKRS, which we'll put up, I'll put that
Okay.
link up on the website tomorrow.
I'm not sure, is our CAC meeting this month?
It's going to be close. Let's see.
I think our typical meeting would be on the 15th, and it would be due 8 days later, the letter. So
Which, that's doable.
it's doable. I think maybe we should meet, even if there isn't an official meeting, we should go ahead and have the meeting, don't you think?
Yeah.
So CAC
I
would
have it
be,
on the 21st, actually. That's what is showing up in my calendar, but I don't
did
know
we
if
move it
that's,
till then? It might be.
because that's the third
We'll announce it
Wednesday.
at the next meeting if we're having a CAC meeting, and at that point, we could go over that as the CAC.
I mean, I think we should all review this, though, and come prepared to outline a letter for next
Yeah,
Thursday.
whether, do we do it collectively or individually? I mean, is it
I
something?
mean, it's
how
up
do
to
you
the
propose?
board. I don't know what the most efficient way to...
Probably send the comments to you, and then we can draft.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do that, send your
Yeah.
individual comments
Send
to
one
me,
letter.
and I can prepare something for next week's meeting to be discussed. That might be...
And for disclosure, my firm, Oblong Valley Real Estate, sold this parcel to Ridgecrest Farms several years ago. So I told you before that this was but you told me it's not a conflict.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm just making that public notice. Is that it for that one, Ridgecrest? We're all okay?
I think so,
We
yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
For now.
Ken Hollow? The letter went out?
David Everett sent his packet, he had a letter and an affidavit. He submitted a report from, he had a herpetologist do a study on rattlesnake dens, and he's asked DEC to have the applicant look into that issue,
Well, they found it.
timber rattlesnakes.
They found some skins.
They found some skins in that, there's evidence that there are dens in that area or on that property, and under the Endangered Species Act, they're protected. What David Everett's letter suggested was that DEC hadn't given a hard look to that issue in their negative declaration. And he thinks that there's a good chance that DEC will ask the applicant to do further studies on that issue. So, and that would extend the period of time that they would issue the permit. I think they have to issue the permit within 60 days of when the application is deemed to be complete. But what Dave Everett thinks is if DEC agrees that this issue needs further consideration, that they'll ask the applicant to do more studies and consent to an extension of the deadline. And so it would push back the issuing the permit. One other thing, just to keep in mind, as part of this application, John Fenton issued a determination of violation, even though there is not mining activity currently going on the property. In the event that they do start to mine, it would be a violation of your zoning law. So John Fenton issued a declaration of violation, and that was attached to the materials that were submitted by David Everett. That we think may trigger the applicant to either appeal that determination to the Amenia Zoning Board of Appeals or seek declaratory judgment in the Supreme Court. So there's a possibility that that may trigger some activity by the applicant, some legal activity, either with the Amenia Zoning Board of Appeals or in the State Supreme Court. You've got a relatively short deadline. They would have 60 days to appeal that determination with the Zoning Board of Appeals. Declaratory judgment action, I'd have to look at what the statute of limitations. Statute of limitations would be longer on that. But there's, just so everybody understands, there's a possibility that this may trigger some response by the applicant.
There's still time to respond, right?
Not on Kent Hollow Mine application.
No, there was an
Another
extension. There was a second extension
There
till
was.
Yeah.
November 14th, I believe. 15th?
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
One other thing I did, and David Everett had suggested that we make a FOIL request to DEC to get all of the public comments that are submitted, and I made that FOIL request. I submitted it today. So we should be getting copies of all the public comments that were submitted.
No, I'll find that and I'll send it to you. Any other questions?
So, yeah, if anyone else who hasn't written a letter wants to write a letter, they have 7 days to do so.
Okay. The building inspector has asked for a backup code enforcement officer to do emergency inspections when John is not available. So that's something we're going to have to deal with. Also, he's sent a new job description, which you have a copy of, which will be sent to the county, as to a job description title change for code enforcement officer of your supervisor of code enforcement. So I think you've had this before,
Yes.
right? You've had this for a while.
Yeah.
So I think we need a motion to accept this so I can redo his job description. We'll send it to the county.
I'll make a motion to accept the job title change and description of duties.
Second.
Roll call, please, Patty.
Councilwoman Reamer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Parodi,
Yes.
Councilman Haas,
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle,
Yes.
and Supervisor Flood.
Yes. We need to set a date for so that we can meet as a board and discuss this handbook so we can get this thing done. So what's available for you people?
next Wednesday?
Have an enhancement meeting next
Oh,
Wednesday,
okay.
the 14th. That's at 5:30. I would suggest Tuesday, the 13th, if people have that available.
I can do
Tuesday, the
Tuesday.
13th.
Yeah, I can do that.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Yes,
5:30?
5:30? Yep.
Yep.
Now, did you all get copies?
I have old ones, but I don't think we ever got printed copies of the current
All right, we'll have them done.
version. That would be great, because it's
Oh,
big.
to compare them. Is that what you're
I
saying?
have a
Old ones?
2010, I have a 2011, and I did not print
No,
out
the latest.
the
I
2000.
have the latest.
You
You're
have it
talking about-
printed?
Yeah,
Unless I can't find, I mean, maybe I did get
Well,
it.
I think I printed it myself.
it was sent by email.
It was sent by email.
Okay, so if they could print
I
one for me.
can forward it if you.
No, I have it by
Oh.
email, but I just
Okay.
figured I don't have enough
You want a hard
ink
copy?
in my printer probably to do the whole thing.
Okay, town board comments?
No, just want to be thankful that we made it through this hurricane. It was quite an ordeal for us in Smithfield. We had our dry ice, which was very helpful, distributing it to some of the residents and prevented a lot of food spoiling, so it was helpful. The water, I had asked for water too, because some people couldn't even get out to the stores. And the water, came after the water came on, but now that we have this water, I'm wondering if we could include it to send down to the package that's going to
Down south?
Red Cross or just, your fire company is doing it. Mary Millette sent email regarding that, so maybe those cases of water could go down there and be helpful to people in need, as well as warm clothing. The fire company is collecting warm clothing, baby clothing, food, between 4 and 7 at the Amenia Firehouse, and they have a truck that will deliver it down to the people in need.
What day?
Hmm?
What day are they accepting?
I know it's Friday. but,
Friday.
Yeah, I don't know about Saturday because I was not able to do it. Between 4 and 7.
Okay.
Blankets, boots, they're in dire need of all of these things.
If we're just doing announcements, there's a lecture at Carey Institute on the 16th, Friday the 16th, called Seed Underground. It's about heirloom seeds and genetically modified food sources. So if you're interested in that, that's at 7 o'clock on the 16th. It will be very full, so I would suggest coming at 6:30 if you want to have a seat in the auditorium. There is a cornucopia of sound going on at the Lantern Inn. There's a $5 cover charge that's on Saturday the 24th at Lantern Inn in Wassaic to benefit Northeast Community Center and Share the Bounty Food Pantry. It sounds very good in Wassaic.
I've been there, it's very good.
Yeah, should be a fun evening in Wassaic. We also are planning quite a bit of activities for our Holiday of Lights here in Amenia. 2:30 to 4, we're going to be putting on finishing details for the decorations, and the Cub Scouts Troop 29 will be working here in the auditorium, making some decorations that volunteers can help with. We'll be having a dance expo in the gym at 3 o'clock, and there'll be free raffle tickets and refreshments. At 4 o'clock, if you want to participate in the parade, you can do so. It's going to be new this year. You line up at the firehouse at 4 o'clock, at the Amenia Firehouse on Mechanic Street, and there's no walking because it's dark, but you have to have a lighted, anything wheeled, a bicycle with lights and battery pack. You can do anything, a float. There'll be the fire trucks as well lit. And we'll end the whole parade here at the town hall, and the parade departs at 5 o'clock. Arrives, we hope, between 5:30 and 6. At 6:30 is our tree lighting here in front of the town hall with carols, raffle prizes, Citizen of the Year awards, and we do need to get our Citizen of the Year set for both Amenia and Wassaic.
So we're entertaining recommendations from the community, if they have any for Citizen of the Year for Wassaic or Amenia.
And we need to get those in by our next town board meeting so we can make a decision. If you have any suggestions, you can talk to any one of us and we'll share that information and make a decision on the 15th at our next town board meeting.
Or email us.
Yeah. Also, it just, I'm still not quite clear how we get things on Channel 22 and on our website. Is there somebody here at Town Hall that is the appropriate
Mary.
channel? Mary's going to handle that, so if I email Mary, then she will get the information out.
Yep.
Okay.
We're also working today, just to bring you up to speed too, with Dutchess County, to supply buses, to transfer
Yes.
people around. Mary was working on that today, so the application went in today. So there's a possibility that we could get a loop bus out here to move seniors and stuff from Tally Ho and whatever, back and forth, whatever we have to do to move them, to get them here, so they want to be part of it, or whoever else needs a ride.
We might also consider Wassaic, a swing through Wassaic on
Yeah,
the
right,
way.
right, and there's
It may
also, I
be-
think the Dutchess, or the Northeast Community Center has a van also that we can use. We just have to supply a driver and put the gas in it.
So we're looking for a regular driver to volunteer on Saturday, December 8th, between 2:30 and 6:30. If there's any such person willing to come forward and help seniors and others get to our Holiday of Lights, that would be very helpful. Also, while we're talking about Holiday of Lights, bonfire, speak now or forever hold your peace. If you have any reason, is there a burn permit needed or anything like that? I believe the fire company is all on board for having a bonfire. I had a quick look around. It looks like the playground
You can do it.
on sand.
Just have a
might be
fire,
the
like
best.
have a hose there is a lovely thing.
There needs to be a water supply
I would think so.
nearby. Just
Marshmallows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, marshmallows handy. Okay. So I think that's a go, and if the weather is permitting, you're still gonna head up this
Ice
ice
skating.
skating?
Yep.
'Cause, you know all about that. I'm gonna leave that to you.
Okay, I just wanted to announce that the Amenia Fire Department is having a spaghetti supper on November 10th. They're serving from 4 to 7. Please come out and support your local firemen. And on Sunday, November 11th, the Wassaic Auxiliary is having a pancake breakfast at the Wassaic Firehouse from 8 to 11. And also come out and support your Wassaic firemen. The only other thing I had that I had some questions about is when I got our revenue and expenses, I noticed there were several overdrawn lines. The engineer line is overdrawn $6,368.17, electrical $10,316.49, HVAC $34,613, as well as several others, and we only have $34,000 in our contingency, and I wondered what the plan was to correct the overdrafts.
I believe they're being drafted with the next resolution next week.
But where's the money coming from?
The money was from the NYSERDA grant pays most of them. Some of the electric will come out of the building that had to be paid because I believe it would not pay the, was a CT mail you had to do the report? Right, it would not pay that, so I think that was paid. And there was something else they refused to pay. It was-
And wastewater is $18,680.80. How is that going to be paid?
There's donation coming for that. That's being paid. Should have a check here any minute. There was something else that one electrical bill they wouldn't pay, that the building is paying. Yeah. Yeah. That the NYSERDA refused to pay.
So there'll be a resolution next
Yep.
meeting?
Yep.
Because we can't have overdrawn lines for municipal.
I know that. That's why it's being, the resolution will be done. We just got the checks.
Well, the NYSERDA check came a month ago. I just wondered why it hadn't been allocated yet.
I think it has been. It just hasn't been up to date.
Also, we have a Veterans Day on Sunday. It's an unusual thing for me anyway, to have Veterans Day fall exactly on Sunday. The 11th day, the 11th hour, we meet at Fountain Square, and sadly, it's probably in the middle of most people's church services. So, but we agreed with the post 5444 to hold it anyway on the 11th day, the 11th hour at Fountain Square. And whoever comes. Our Wassaic Fire Company's Color Guard, I believe, is going to be there. Our Troop 29 Scouts will be there to help lay the wreath. And I haven't yet talked to Jim Devine, but I do have the key for getting him electrical service for the music. So if you can come, please honor your veterans on the 11th day, the 11th hour. That's this Sunday. So I appreciate anybody who can come, and I'm sorry it is right in the middle of a lot of our church services.
Does John need this taken care of now? The memo, so we received a memo from John Fenton that he'd like to hire Welsh to clean up a property that he's trying to take an enforcement action on. So we need to give him permission to do that if we're all in favor of him taking that kind of action.
I would make that motion that we agree to allow John Fenton to begin taking the necessary steps to have that property comply with our laws.
I second that motion.
Councilwoman Reamer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Parodi?
Yes.
Councilman Haas?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes?
And Supervisor Flood?
I'm going to abstain.
I'm involved in the sale of the property, so that's why I'll back away.
Okay.
5:30. So Tuesday, 5:30, we're meeting to go over our employee handbook.
Correct.
Okay.
You'll get an agenda posted?
Yep.
Also, I don't know if since we have a little more time tonight, I just understood through the grapevine that there is still, it would be helpful, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but just to go over in really round numbers, our commitment to the reclamation of the landfill. I tried to explain it, but it seems there's some misunderstanding among some residents that we have a fixed amount of money that is due on our part, but in fact, we are responsible for expending all of the money of which we get reimbursed 75%. Now, I understand that let's see, from my basic understanding of the math, we're at we were originally 4.6 was the contracted amount, 4.6 million, of which we got 1.1 million up front from the people who were responsible to stay out of court. We settled with them, and that money was in our accounts and is available to us to use towards the landfill. And we have every bit of the money that we spend, 75% of that is reimbursed by the DEC through a Bond Act money. And that 1 million in rough numbers was forgiven as a debt forgiveness as part of the shovel-ready.
Right, well, you got a
EFC.
grant for 1.6 million, I believe, and if you read the maximum they can pay is 1 million. So the total bill today is roughly 2 million that's due. So that 1.6 million will go towards the 1 million, towards the $2 million bill. So that'll bring it down to $1 million. What we can do next year, we go back to the EFC and ask them to give us the extra 600 if they have extra money left, so we can knock that down more. But we can't ask for it until next year.
But right now,
All the
Amenia
money-
taxpayers are on the hook
For 1 million,
for 1 million. We co-owned, we
right?
operated this transfer station, which
Well,
contributed to the
and that could
PCBs.
fluctuate a little bit too, because they're not done with the construction, because there are some stuff that, where they've cut the cost down on the cap. They're using a different kind of a cap. I think that brings it down 100,000. There's some other stuff that they use that they did not use. They didn't have to do as much testing. We did go way over on the PCBs because it went from, I think, 400 ton to 800 ton or 900 ton that we had to take off the site. There's been some cost overruns, obviously, from the weather. That's been worked out. That was the last bill that we worked out, so.
Right.
At this point, the west pond is done. They did that before the hurricane hit. They worked around the clock to get it done. So when all the rain did come, that was cleaned, and they had finished the slopes to the point and had all the drainage done to the best they could. So there was very little damage done there, thank God, after the hurricane. There was very little washout, so that was taken care of. But your escrow account from the original, was it 12? That's gone.
12 PRPs or whatever.
Correct,
you call
From
it.
that's
the
gone.
originators.
So that money has been spent out. It
Right.
saved us a lot of money in interest. We were able to use whatever
Yep, they used
interest
a
it
lot. It
garnered.
went a long way. It paid
Yeah.
the most of the engineering.
So we haven't yet felt the impact ourselves of the cost of this. You won't feel it in your taxes until
Next year.
next year. We've provided a small amount to start.
This year, we paid a principal payment, what we had to
Yeah.
pay, because it's been going on for, I think, 3 years, 4 years.
Out of our existing budget.
Well,
Or
no,
out
you've
of
been,
the-
you've been pulling from that.
From the
You have a
fund.
line of credit with the
Okay.
EFC.
Right, okay,
That's what you have. So you've been pulling from that line of credit. The DEC pays the 75%.
right.
The original 12 paid their part,
Mhm.
and then it's been deleted to the point where now the DEC is paying it. They're paying the 75%. So out of their funds. So, and we're close, so it's almost finished. It should be done here, I would
So it's
hope.
not a reimbursable. They are paying directly out of the DEC's account. They're
Correct.
paying 70.
I
That's
sign,
wonderful.
once a month, I just
Sign
signed them
off
the
on
other
it.
day. We
Yeah.
sign off on all
Yeah.
the receipts. They're doing an audit now, which I think Sherry's, they were off by $16. They're trying to find the $16 because you had money that received interest. The interest was paid off, and that was part of what was paid the bills. So they just have to go backtrack and see what the $16 is. So the audit's being done now. So we're within the, $16 after 4 or
Yeah.
5 million is not bad.
No, I
considered
think
not.
there was confusion in that they thought that when we were working to save money, we all got that bill, the extra cost overruns of the extra PCBs that needed to be removed, and it was up to almost 2 million. One of the options was about 700,000 to 2 million, and Bill went and worked with our engineers to make sure that we didn't have to pay all that cost overrun. There were ways that we were able to work that down to
About 300,
300,000 instead of,
700.
yeah. So
800.
we really, that makes a difference to you. That's not a difference to DEC or anything else. That's your bottom line and our responsibility, right?
Correct.
We have every one of those dollars that we're spending now, 25% of that is your dollar.
The other
We're
thing
not-
is,
We're not ready yet.
Sharon, Connecticut pays for the maintenance for
30 years.
30
Yeah, it's a
years.
long time. We get to,
Enjoy it.
yes, we get to enjoy it, but they get to actually, pay for it. But we get to decide what is done there, the pathways or whatever, and they maintain what we decide we want there.
They've changed the way they're gonna cap it, so you don't see those little vent things anymore. You won't see that. So and Stevenson's done a very good job. There's a construction meeting every Tuesday if you wanna go. It's,
Tuesday, what time?
they start at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and they're there till 5 or 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night.
And the meeting consists of a walk around the
No,
site? or-
well, we're not allowed on the site. You're allowed to walk the perimeter to a certain degree. But our engineers there, the DEC is there, the project managers are there.
At 9 o'clock.
Yeah. And then all of Stevenson's people are there, and then they go over everything that's done. It has to be done, and so on and so forth. All the testing, all that stuff is documented. All the air quality tests, the sand is tested, everything is cleaned, the mats have to be cleaned, everything has to be decontaminated. All people have to be decontaminated as they go in and out. That's that big thing they drive through, that's all a decontamination system. And those big red tanks that you see are water tanks. They have to pump that water from that pond as they clean it, and it all has to be filtered. They're filters. Those big blue things are filters. All that water is filtered into those tanks, it settles, pumped to another tank, settles, then it's pumped back out into the stream. It's amazing to see what they've done there.
Wow.
And part of the south part of it is the original landfill overshot the original boundaries that they had. So that's what they're doing now. They're cleaning that up now. You know, and luckily they didn't find any more buried dumpsters or cans, whatever, the 55-gallon drums. I think you took hundreds of them out of there. That was done in the first phase. So they found nothing, junk cars, trucks, that stuff.
And we'll have for the town, how many acres? It'll be
It's 37 acres, I think.
26, I
Is it 26
thought. Maybe
acres?
in total 26, of which 6 to 8 were the affected.
Will be a park.
Yeah, it's only part of it.
The other last thing, I'm sorry, the last thing I will say is that I did not make the enhancement committee meeting last night because of the weather, but it sounds like they were able to get quite a bit of work done.
Yeah, we did.
Despite that, can you report on that? Or I know that the constables came up. It seemed to me that the original suggestion of 3 constables seemed like too much, to maintain the parking and make sure that the lots stay free for
Yeah,
the parade vehicles.
The lot has to stay, the parking lot has to stay free for the
And the
parade
horseshoe.
vehicles.
Right?
And the horseshoe. The horseshoe is where the fire truck with Santa is going to come up on the horseshoe.
So we need to hire some constables for a couple of hours, or do you think we can do it with barricades? And
I think we'll need constables.
I think so. The one in Millerton that I went to last year. had
It's going to be pretty
constables.
busy.
Yeah, and it's so easy
keep the
to,
traffic
yeah,
happening.
to get the directions rather than try and guess in the dark where you're going.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it does sound like the Lions Club is willing to help with some kind of
The Lions Club is
decorations.
looking into maybe purchasing banners
in time for this celebration.
in time for the, yeah, that's what they're meeting and they're looking to do.
We'll need some
Well,
signs
they did give you
updated too.
1,000, correct?
What?
The
Well,
Lions Club did
they're
give $1,000.
gonna
Right.
buy the banners, it sounds like.
Yeah,
This
the
would be
banners.
additional stuff, and I think there is money still left in our Holiday of Lights account, I'm not positive. The other thing I would like to do is that there's some extra lights
We have a lot of lights.
from the tree, and if we could use that to help fill out decorations in the town hall and Wasik tree, if we have the need, because we have no money to buy, really.
Boxes up.
Okay.
Now,
So
what the,
everyone's
what
good
the
with that.
library is going to do, they're going to have an open house the week before
Right.
as it's like a thank you to the community type open house.
Mhm.
So they decided to do, to have that the week before, so that everything that we have on the 8th is going to be here, as far as Santa, crafts for children, the dance.
Activities, Historical
Yeah.
Society will be here with a booth.
The activities, and then there was also discussion about asking restaurants to participate and supply food, and we talked about getting tables from the fire department.
And chairs.
Not chairs.
Not chairs, we're gonna use these chairs to,
Well, I don't think we should have chairs in the gym. I think we should just have the tables, and, you don't know how many people are gonna be in there.
for our dance exhibition, it's always nice for grandparents and such,
Yeah,
at least
if
in
you want to
number.
put like a line of,
Yeah,
one
along
line
the
of
edge.
chairs all along the edge of, along the wall,
Yeah,
but I think that I would limit it to that.
yeah.
And that was pretty much what we spoke to. The fire department are pretty much going to handle all the parade. They're looking at lining up at the fire department, going down Mechanic Street over Railroad Avenue, up Old Route 22, and then coming
Oh, really? The whole-
22. And they're going to use their fire police to close the road,
Mhm.
for during the time of the parade. But they did want the constables to keep the parking lot free.
So what do we need, 3 constables?
At least 2.
2 for 4 hours is what I think was the they
Well, let's-
came
Yeah, we
away
need to
with
get
that.
some barricades and cones to,
The highway
to show
department
people
has it.
where, yeah. to see where, you know, where we need to block it off. But that was pretty much the plan. And then we're also collecting raffle prizes too. I think Marilyn is doing that, aren't you, Marilyn? Usually do. Yeah.
Was anyone assigned solicitation for the restaurants?
We're hoping that you will help
Yeah.
lead that parade. And
Actually, Kevin had a list of, from when he went looking for
Donation.
donations for the garden club. He has a list of all the restaurants
the
and all the
restaurants.
telephone numbers and everything. So, you know, we kind of have a head start on that.
and
So if you want me
that
to do
would be
that, I'd happy
great.
to.
That would be great. And if we only do a few prizes, you know, for the raffle, and you focus more effort on
Is that
getting
for a
some
raffle or
finger
for food?
No, it's food.
Raffle's separate.
We've got 6 donors already.
Wonderful.
Red World called me, and they have, they're going to do 2 $25 gift certificates.
Wow.
The same for Fresh Town Video Forum.
Wow.
Who else? Tractor and Supply. I just have to firm up the Tractor and Supply.
That's great.
Yeah, so we're all set there. So I'll be happy to do so if you want me to.
So Bank of Millbrook also usually does the
Oh,
grand
yes.
prize.
Yes, okay, forgot about that.
And that would be great. Therese Sanford used to help us at Bank of Millbrook, if that makes any difference to you.
Okay, yes.
She's at the
That's who
Millbrook
she was last
branch,
time.
yeah.
Okay, fine. I'm happy to do it.
There is some, I'm going to talk to Wasaik. There was a sense that maybe they did want to do something in Wasaik, so I will get back to you on Thursday if there will be a separate celebration of some sort for Wasaik.
When do we need to decorate trees?
Oh, thank you. Oh my God. You are a glutton for punishment. Okay, so yes, we need volunteers to help more than ever. We're doing it on Sunday, the 25th, 1 to, what, we said 2 to, noon to,
Noon to 2.
noon to 2.
Right.
We may have to go longer, probably 2 to 4 would be in Wasaik, something like that. So noon to 2 here at Fountain Square on Sunday. That's different from in the past. Sunday, November 25th. It's always the weekend of Thanksgiving, and we're, instead of doing it on Saturday, we're doing it on Sunday at noon at Fountain Square. Thank you to anybody who is willing to show up.
Do you need bows?
We do. We would need 20 bows, small bows,
I'll go
and the
get them.
6 large ones for the poles, the
Okay.
light poles. That would be great.
And Vicki, I'd just like to add that I talked with Mr. Rockanova from Weemutuck High School, Mr. Jones from Maplebrook, and then also a representative from Kildonan. And they're all very enthusiastic about having the students come back on the 25th. Now, we have to remember that because that's a holiday weekend, we may not get as many. We
Right.
had 13 this time, a combination of Kildonan and Maplebrook. And I personally had an absolute ball with them. They're just so enthusiastic, and they did a great job. They worked
Do you want to go
on
up to
the
the,
playground, yeah.
do you want to say a few
Oh.
words? Because that is very nice that the students
Okay.
helped with cleanup day, and I didn't mention that it was a big
I'm
success.
sorry, excuse me. Okay, Marilyn Noe from Amenia. As I said, I talked today with Mr. Rockanova from Weemutuck High School, Mr. Jones from Maplebrook, and then Mr. Scribner from Kildonan. And they are all their students were very enthusiastic about the experience of working for the Amenia's Cleanup Day, which took place on Saturday. And they're going to, all 3 schools are going to return, and for Weemutuck, it's probably going to be the first time.
Right.
And as I said, it's holiday weekend, so we may not get as many, because many of the students will go home, obviously, for their Thanksgiving holiday. But, I promised that, again, we'd have a hospitality table, and we'll feed those kids and, have them keep coming back. They mentioned to me that they'd like to keep updated on the different activities they had. I mentioned about holiday of lights to the young people, and they're very, very enthusiastic. I mean, this is something to get them in the holiday spirit that they'll take home, especially with the private schools, to their families, et cetera, kind of stuff. So, but it was really a lot of fun.
That's great. Thank you for being that ambassador, because I can't really, she really helps out during the day when I can't really make those calls.
Yeah, and I just want to mention one more thing. Because we have young people, and there's always the possibility that there might be a minor accident, et cetera, I'm going to suggest to the enhancement committee that we just purchase the very basic first aid kit.
Oh, right.
And I'm a registered nurse, both New York and licensed, and Connecticut. And but I think it would be a good idea.
That's not a bad idea. I mean, do we have one here at Town Hall? Because we
Yes.
should have one.
Upstairs.
We do.
Mhm.
So maybe for activities, we could use it, because it's on weekends and times
I
when
think it's on the wall.
It's hanging on the
there.
wall.
Perfect. So we have one.
Okay, as long as
We can just
take
bring
that.
it to the site and have it. Very good.
Okay, thank you.
So
We'll bring
it's
the
in
kid here if
Mary's-
he's bleeding.
Yeah.
Drag him upstairs. The supervisor's report, Hurricane Sandy. I'd like to thank Mary Millette, Dawn Klingner, Patty Barron, Mike Flint, Victoria Perotti for, they are the emergency management team. Also, the first responders from the Amenia Fire Department and the Wasaik Fire District. Chief Chris Howard, Scott Boardman, who worked around the clock with us to make sure that the town got through this thing. Tony Millette also, who drove to Brewster and picked up dry ice. Marco Di Antonio, who also went with me, and we used his truck and trailer to pick up a pallet of dry ice and a pallet of water. The fire departments did an incredible job, as did all of the people here within the town hall, working to make sure that people got taken care of. Mike was very good with getting stuff on the Channel 22. We also worked around the clock with the Dutchess County 911 emergency system. We did have some issues when New York City flooded. The Verizon cable company, Cable Optimum, or cable phone system went down, which is part of Dutchess County's 911, so we had absolutely no communication with them for a day, other than some cell phones worked. But I did have several conversations with Mark Molinaro at 9 o'clock at night, so they were in that building around the clock. They're very concerned about what was going on out here, and we're sort of like the end of the county, but they were very concerned as to what's going on out here. And we were up to date on weather reports, storm outages. NYSEC did an incredible job. Once they got here, we had two men that were designated for this area. They were actually here twice. We took them around to the town. They kept us. We had 2 daily briefings with the county and the NYSEC. So we knew exactly who was out. In fact, I think as of yesterday, there were still 28 people out here. They were finally up last night, I think. They should have been done, I think, last night.
I saw trucks on Old Route 22 at 5 on when I was coming home. Is that one of the outages areas? There were like
No, I
3
think
trucks.
Randall's Road was out, and I think there's some poles that blew over there that
Oh,
they're fixing.
okay. Not necessarily outages, but,
Right.
okay.
And Smithfield was out for 4 or 5 days. I know I delivered, I don't know
6
how much
days.
6
dry ice out
days.
there. We
They were
delivered dry ice
sick
twice
of
a day.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sick of it.
But one thing that we've did through this whole thing, that we realized that because we are a technological society, once the power goes out, we have no way of reaching people. So I don't know
Landlines
how they're
are
going to do this,
prevalent in-
It's an issue. We did have the Red Cross here. They were at Tally Ho. They did feed them. There were some issues there with getting people in and out because they won't leave. So it's an issue. They put a generating system in last year, so they did have fresh water, which was, and they had a warming center so they could go and eat and stay there all day if they wanted to, or night. That was up to them. So the Red Cross did feed them for 2 days, 3 days. They fed them, but they pooled all their food, and the food that wasn't used, that had to be used, they fed themselves and fed a lot of people.
So it's worked out pretty well.
Mhm.
But I think at some point, we're gonna have to do this building.
I think so. I think if we had a specific place in an emergency, that people know that they could come, for example, to the town hall to be warm and have a hot meal and even set up some showers. I think that was the greatest thing, taking that shower after a few days. But something that is predictable, have a generator, have it predictable. And then in each hamlet, and I think you mentioned that, Vicki, too.
It seems
that
like if there's a little
contracting-
champion for that area,
Right.
and maybe in Wassaic, it's the firehouse. It's the
Yeah.
go-to place to get the information, to find out, that it's likely to be there. But have somebody who's kind of the intermediary, because I felt, Bill really is the commander, and I can't really make decisions. I need to maybe talk to Bill and get back to those who are on the ground in Wassaic. But yeah, there needs to be some sense right there where people can figure out where they go, where the dry ice, when it's coming, what the NYSEG situation is.
Well, you can only, part of the issue is once there's a state of emergency issue, once the county takes over, you sort of lose control. They sort of tell you what you can do, what you can't do. So the Red Cross, we tried to get the Red Cross to open at the Wassaic Developmental Center, but they were so stretched that they couldn't do it.
Right, I understand that.
They just could not do it. So the conversation I had with the Red Cross is that they will come out here and they will train volunteers here that we will have, and that they can coordinate with the Red Cross, because that works out much easier. The Red Cross did have a trailer in Dover, but they came and took it the day before the storm. So we had no cots, no blankets, nothing. So it's an issue that we have to work with.
Yeah, and I think, there seems to be also maybe 2 or 3 days out, we need to make a plan with the fire companies. What is their availability? In other words, where would somebody, if they're in distress, go?
Well, the county did open the Red Cross opened 2 centers, one in Red Hook and one in Beacon. And I think that was the only 2 that we had. So
And then
there's
later, the next week, they open one in Pauling.
Right. I mean, I think Pauling still has a lot of people out in
Oh.
that area. So obviously no one from here is going to drive to Red Hook. And I
No.
think they only had one
No.
person or two people there, and 4 in Beacon, I heard.
I
Very few people will leave. But if it gets prolonged, like you said, if there's some place where they can go take a shower and spend the day or the night if they have to, with no heat, where it's warm, that's something we have to take a look at.
Right, because we were lucky because it wasn't cold
Right.
for that
It
time
was-
period. Oh, you were cold. Well,
I
you had 6
three
days. of it.
sweaters, sleeping in 3 sweaters. I was freezing. Yeah, that last day, which is so cold, the temperature dropped. But, I think we'll do a little planning ahead.
But you get time slots from NYSEC as to when you can pick up water in ice. They will, between ours was 11 o'clock, 11 and 4. We have two times we could be there. And then you wait in line, and then they bring in Putnam County, Westchester County, all these different
So you
towns.
send people out to there to bring back
Right, I went there. and picked
water
it up.
and stuff.
Right.
It was
We brought it here. We dropped it off at
And-
Tally Ho, Wassaic, here, and then Smithfield. We
Yeah.
dropped off.
So it's good that we're all geographically reasonably spread out, so that, Darlene sent the word out to her people, and if I can help with the fire
door
company.
to door because there was no communication.
You went door to door.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's the only way you could.
Well, we had people come here that called, and we got a lot of people here for dry ice,
A lot of people came.
water.
Luckily,
Yeah.
you had power.
Right.
Yeah. But Freshtown didn't. It was so weird
Had
that
power.
some little pockets just
I know, we
were
had
out.
to cancel our turkey dinner because Freshtown was going to cook like 16 or 17 turkeys for us.
Oh, my
And so we had to cancel the first time in 100 years.
God.
But anyway, made
Like-
it through.
I'd like to thank the Highway Department for keeping the roads open and taking care of the trees and branches. They spent a lot of hours out there, too.
What's on my list?
Shorthanded.
What's that?
We're shorthanded. They had a resignation.
Yeah, but he just left Thursday, so he worked.
No, it was gone.
Also, a peace pole was dedicated here the other day by the Peace Festival. So it's out front, we put it out front where they wanted it. That was done.
And the plaque's up
Plaques
for
up.
the Proper
Yep.
Children.
That's up,
So
that's been done.
in. That looks very good.
Yeah, he did a nice job.
Thank you, Kevin Cassone. I don't know where he gets all his skills, but he put a beautiful plaque right onto the big stone in front of the Christmas trees, the two spruces that were planted in their honor. And that'll be a nice time to light the trees this year with the plaque. And I guess we need to contact the Proper family that will be having our celebration there in front of those trees.
That's all I've got. So, public comments.
Oh, do you want to go to?
Oh,
Mike
I'm sorry.
Oh, Mike.
How you doing today?
Good.
We've had I've been in a meeting since 3 o'clock today. We had a committee day for the legislature, and then we had a public hearing on the county executive's budget, and then I just came from Washington, and if I can get there, I'll go to Stanford afterwards. So if I can just comment a little bit briefly on the county executive's budget. He presented it to us, sent us to us last week, and then he gave a presentation on Monday. And then there was a hearing tonight, and then next week we as legislators will go through each line by line, department by department, hearing the details, and then we'll pass something end of the month, and then at a committee, and then vote in December on the actual budget. A lot of this year with the new county executive, a lot of the information has been forthcoming. So we've been following it for a while now. There's several department mergers. Health department is going to absorb Veterans Department. Aging will become its own department again, and youth will go over to Social Services, which will now have a new name change. It'll be the Department of Community Services. So that'll include not just the various stuff Social Services currently does, but also youth. In Public Works, Highway and Engineering will merge, and then there'll also be what we have, Central Services and Computer Services will merge as well. So several different merger departments. There's also an early retirement incentive. I think I spoke about that before. About 70 employees will be taking that, and then additionally, there'll probably, I think it's 7 layoffs will take place. So it's not a large amount. I mean, majority of people that will be leaving are doing so voluntarily. Besides that, as you know, there is the cap on the sales tax going to the towns, and the budget the county executive put forward says it's going to cut spending, but there is an increase in taxes, property taxes, but underneath the property tax cap. How he does that is he's proposing a mortgage tax. In the history of the county, we had a mortgage tax, I think, from 07 to 09, and then it was allowed to expire. This would bring the mortgage tax back. It would be a 0.5 percentage point, and it would only apply to people who are taking out a mortgage on a house, business property, or refinancing. And there would be an exemption in there for first-time home buyers. And this 0.5 percentage point for this year, 2013, it would be implemented July 1st, is basically predicted to bring in $4.5 million, and that would allow us to stay under the property tax cap and still pay our bills within the county. Within his budget, there's a couple novel ideas, and I don't have the full details. We haven't analyzed them yet, but the first is to do a shared services with Ulster County, and that's regarding use of public defenders. Typically, there are times, not a lot, but enough, that there is a case where there's a conflict, such as you might have in family court, where you have two parties that are public defender can't represent both. We now have public defender model in our family court, or a criminal matter, and there's some kind of conflict. Typically now we would hire out regular attorneys and pay a state fee. The county executive is proposing instead that Ulster County's public defenders would come over, and we would do the same for their conflict cases for a set predetermined hour, 400 hours, and that way it would be coming cheaper. The second idea he brings forward is dealing with our jail. The plans are to go forward probably with a study and then voting next year, probably to build a brand-new jail. We currently house out so many inmates that it's costing between $7 and $8 million a year just in housing out costs. The county executive's plan for this year is to start building pods, and these would be temporary cells that would be next to the jail. And the plan would be that these pods would cost about $2 million to build, and then $2 million to staff. And if you add that up, that's $4 million. As I said, we're currently spending $7 to $8 million a year housing out. So that's his initial proposal. We're going to get more details on Tuesday when we meet with the sheriff and go over his budget. But that's the proposal in the budget. One concern I have with that, which could be a negative, is the staffing. You have to hire a lot more employees to patrol those pods, as well as existing jail. And if we are going down the road of building a new jail that will have less manpower, and then you have these employees that we're hiring only to terminate within a couple of years. The positive is we have a lot of programs in the county that can help offenders, education, job skills, combat recidivism, drug treatment, that when we send inmates to another county, they're not getting those programs. So the idea is maybe if they're more local, they would have better access to our programs and we can keep them from reoffending. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what the county budget's looking like. And before I talk about our other agenda items, is there any questions on the budget?
You think they can balance it?
The proposal he gave says that it's balanced. We're gonna look at it, and that's with raising property taxes about 2% and a half a point on mortgage tax. So.
I just have a question about, well, I just think that our parcel access and all of our county is just way ahead of most counties. And I wondered if by merging some of these departments, if we're going to lose some of that up-to-date, fabulous information that's there at our fingertips. I find that we're just using that GIS a lot for information. It's been really, really great to have that. Are we going to lose any of those services?
I don't think so. A lot of the GIS is through the Department of Planning, and so they're not getting in touch as far as that merger. Central Service does a lot of the printing, phone lines. It's more the administrative, and the Office of Computers and Information Services is more of the kind of the networking of the computers. I mean, they do the website, but they're not doing. I mean, they have a role. I mean, if the computer at planning the GIS breaks down, they're going to be involved, but it shouldn't. I don't think it'll affect that program.
Affect our ability.
And in fact, the county executive has been using OCIS computer information systems to do the new website. There's what's called Duchess Delivery, where you can sign up and get emails on what's going on. There's also Duchess Dashboard, which is a new initiative he released this summer, where you can go on the county's website and it will list all the stats, all the charts. You want to know how many people are in the jail. You want to know what our tax rate is. You want to know how many people are on social services, unemployment. All that data is there, which is something that's been new. It hasn't been readily available before, and these are all new initiatives they've been doing this year, and that's through the new county executive, and I don't think he would merge them to a point that they couldn't be doing this type of stuff. So he's saying it's doable. I think it is. The concern I have more is with all these 70 or so employees that are taking their early retirement. That is, to qualify, they've been in the county at least 20 years, some 30 years. You have a lot of institutional knowledge there, and the fear I have is that one person maybe take 5 people to do the job that they did, or just the knowledge they knew and the background. I'm worried more about how we go forward without some of the people, whether it's in the health department or social services, the controller, wherever they might be. They're valued, and there is a noticeable difference when they're gone. That's what I'm concerned about. But
there's going to be a big learning curve across a bunch of different departments.
And I would wonder about social services is losing, I think, 20 people. And that's a big department, but that's still a lot of people. The health department's losing 9, including 3 public health sanitarians that are dealing with environmental issues, rabies. So that would be my concern, is who's the go-to person here, and how do they make up the difference?
Do they start outsourcing some of that stuff like other cities and towns are doing?
They are, specifically in mental hygiene. They have been this past year. 3 clinics have closed. Mental hygiene is also growing smaller by design. And I think you'll see, if not next year, I think the year after, you'll see mental hygiene and health department merge. So the plan is merging a lot of areas, but other areas I've been noticing that things that have been farmed out seem to be coming back in. And I'm going to use that as a segue, because as you're probably familiar with the transportation issue out here in the Northeast, 2009, the loop bus changed their routes and cut off everything above Wassaic. And then last 2 years, there has been the Northeast Community Center step forward, the Foundation of Community Health, the towns, including Amenia, have stepped forward to provide a new transportation network. And one of the county executive's proposals now is to redo the loop bus route, and he wants to take that grant money that Northeast Community Center has, and the applications were due November 5th, I think it was, this past Monday, and Northeast Community Center put in for it. The county also put in for the same grant money, and I think Goliath is probably going to win, and the question is what happens then to this network that's been set up through the Northeast Community Center that Amenia is contributing to in a number of towns. And there's actually a meeting on the 16th that has been requested. We're going to be meeting with, and actually I sent it to you, Bill. It got bounced back. I think hopefully it got back to you now, where there was a meeting with the county executive and his various planning people to go over this to make sure that whoever gets the grant money, that the transportation is not cut off. And my concern is that it will be, in speaking with the transportation coordinator for the county, I had a 40-minute conversation, and in it, a number of things that were said as well. There's other people in the county who need transportation needs as well. And to me, that kind of said, well, they're going to be diverting money elsewhere. So I'm concerned about that. There's a meeting taking place. But that I would use as an example of, in the past, we've outsourced, and now the money's coming back in. So there is kind of a Jekyll and Hyde type approach. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't.
One of the problems over the years has been we've been the forgotten corner of Dutchess County, and we really haven't seen that much of a change since the new county executive. I mean, is there something that can be done to recognize that there's a lot of needs in this corner of the county, and that, you know, we're not forgotten in the future?
I would hope so, and I was very hopeful that the county executive was the assemblyman out here to really be in touch. And I know I received a phone call last week that one of the economic development persons in the county is been doing some, I don't want to call them forums, with chambers of commerce, and was doing one down in Pauling, and the Harlan Valley Chamber called up and said, hey, how come you're not coming to us? So I think that there has been a history of neglect, and now I know there is movement afoot as far as the Harlan Valley Rail Trail. I've reported on that in the past. I know that some of the initiatives you've brought to us, such as the sewer, the wastewater, we've been able to take legislative action. But I think I don't want to say it. I think it's still too soon to say that you're continue to be neglected, but it is a concern of mine to make sure that you get the attention that you need. And if this transportation grant county gets it, and that's where I'm going to be looking at. I could see it going either way. I want to make sure that you guys aren't neglected transportation-wise, as well as, and this is the argument I've been making, is right now a lot of players stepped forward when the county stepped away in 2009. Community Foundation, the towns, I said, you're invested not only with your ideas, you're spending taxpayer money on this program. Why are we going to step away from them? And those are the questions I'm going to be asking at this meeting. If the county has a better idea, you can always improve upon. I just want to make sure we're actually going to improve and not just steer money away somewhere else and this region suffers. I don't know.
To answer part of Victoria's question, I think part of what the county executive said is that a lot of social services out here of money, it's one of the biggest areas of the county that's here is Eastern Dutchess, as far as money being here and They pump a tremendous amount of money into this Eastern Dutchess from social
Okay.
services. You know,
But-
it's up like 46%, 47%, I forget whatever it was. It was some ungodly number that it went up.
But that would, to me, that would speak loudly about opening up a social services office out here.
Right
You
here.
know, rather than having somebody go all the, if the majority, 46%, that's a huge amount, has to travel all the way to Poughkeepsie. And if our busing system is not even that efficient, how, you know, it, to
Sounds
me,
like a plan to me.
Sure.
yeah. Oh, I'll follow through with them, you know, and ask them about that.
Thank you.
We have a huge percentage that, of families who qualify for the free and reduced lunches. It's like 75%. We are, in fact, one of the most.
We're the highest poverty level in Dutchess County.
Right.
So at this point.
It does make sense to actually bring social services closer to us rather than shipping people over there to
Right.
access.
And they don't have the transportation, that
That's-
bus
yeah.
system works very well. A lot of people use it.
And that's been my impression, and the Miller's News did a front page story several weeks back where they listed, you know, exactly the ridership. And the concerns I was hearing from the county was that it's a dial ride program right now. And they're saying, we want to have a standard route that goes around and be more efficient. And my argument is saying, if it's a dial ride, the people who need it are calling up, I need it. To me, that's more efficient than having an empty bus traveling around.
Right.
And I'm hoping that they called this meeting, and the meeting originally just included myself, Legislator Sherman, who represents Northeast and Millerton and Pine Plains and Stanford Milan, and county personnel. And I extended the invitation to supervisors of Amenia and Stanford, as well as the Foundation Community Health. I said, look, there's more players. They should be at the table to discuss how we're going forward. If we're not keeping the status quo through the Northeast Community Center, and we're going a different way, we still need to make sure the needs are being met. And from what I've heard, I don't think that their proposed plan will have that. But again, the ink is still wet if it's even on it as well. Other issues. Last month I got here right at the very end, so I didn't get to give a report. In the September meeting of the legislature, we did appoint a county historian. Will Tatum III. He will be Dr. Tatum come December. Very, very smart guy, educated. I've met with him, I had lunch with him, and he will be doing county historian's role, which we created full-time under the clerk and county clerk. It includes records management. It includes coordinating with town historians and regional historical groups, and it includes heritage tourism. Kind of trying to bring in visitors, let's raise some money. I've invited him to meet with all of you, all my towns, and sing so that you'll know him, as well as we have this going on in Amenia. Can you market that? I know Janet Regan did a presentation not too long ago, I saw in the paper. That would be something to let everyone else know about in the county. So he's on board now as county historian. Same meeting, we also had another historical item on our agenda, and that's the Nelson House, which is the old shuttered building next to the county office building. Used to house probation, family court, public defender's office, but has not done so for a while. The county executive condemned it in end of August and said it would not survive another freezing thawing cycle, and the county legislature bonded money to have it torn down. And so that building, if you've been to Poughkeepsie lately, it's been gated up, and it will come down before for the new year. So that's coming down. We also have two local laws that are on our agenda. One of them we passed at a committee today, and will probably pass on Tuesday. And the other item will go forward in December discussion. They both affect consumers. The first one is item pricing. Right now, Dutchess County is one of two counties in the state that still require supermarkets to put the little stickers on every item in the supermarket saying the price. Supermarkets have said it's laborious, takes a lot of time. Somebody gave the example when legislators during Hurricane Sandy, there was the run on the stores, everyone's getting the water, everyone's getting the milk, getting the bread, and you had 4 employees who were sitting there putting stickers on all the ones to restock the shelves. And so this would allow supermarkets to opt out of item pricing. And when I say opt out, it's still the law, but if you don't want to do it, there's a process now through the weights and measurement department of the health department that you can have your scanners inspected, and you can pay a fee, of course, but it will allow you to, if you pass these tests, these scans, checking the scans, and if you continue to list the pricing in the supermarket aisle, cookies, you don't have to mark each one individually. And so that passed out of committee today, and will probably go forward as a law. The second local law that we're looking at is to require gas stations that charge differently for cash versus credit to advertise that on the road.
I agree. I
That's,
think it's terrifically irritating to get there and be ready to pump your gas and find out that was actually a cash price.
Yep, you pulled in and
Yep.
I find personally when I've done that and I get in there and I say, oh, I put in like $1 worth on my card and then I leave just, because I'm
It's
annoying.
false advertising,
Right.
because if you don't know that going in there, that that's what you're gonna pay.
Right. And so this would require them to be forthright out there, and then that way you know what you're going to get before you pull in. And so that was discussion only today, only because the sponsor got sick today, was in the hospital, so we pushed it off, but I'm sure that'll pass.
Is there anything you can do about the price of gas here is so different than, you get below Pauling, it's 15 to 20 cents a gallon cheaper than it is here.
Yeah, it's the same with Ulster County. You go over in Highland, it's nickel,
It's
dime.
one of the biggest complaints I had in the past few weeks is to get prices, not just, obviously,
Right,
it went up,
nationwide, it dropped 21 cents. Do you
But
think we
ours
saw
went
it
up.
here?
No.
Ours stayed.
stayed the same.
Yeah.
Some of it went up. But there's a big
So,
influx of
it's
prices
very
from
irritating.
Millerton to
Yeah.
Pauling. Once you get south, it's different.
That's right.
Same way you go west.
So you're saying even within the county, it's different
Right.
pricing? I don't know why that would be.
I think we're so rural, they just don't, they know you're not gonna drive
Yeah.
around. I mean, I don't know, but it seemed to
Yeah,
me
'cause
that
the sales-
A lot of
nationwide,
seniors are
it
complaining. A lot of
dropped.
people are complaining, especially the seniors are
Right.
complaining. That, the gas, the price of gas, it's expensive. And then if it's a 25 cent or 30 cent difference in price within 20 miles, it doesn't make sense.
If it's between the towns and the county, that's going to be, each shop is somewhat setting their price that way.
Right.
Outside the county, I would say it's probably sales tax. I know New York, it puts a lot of tax on gas, compared to other states, specifically New Jersey. But it's something where I've noticed as well. I don't know what the solution is and how they figure out the price.
It's part of the irritation that everywhere you look, we are paying the highest prices possible. I mean, other than New York City, Long Island, or Alaska, or Hawaii. I mean, it just seems like you can't go anywhere in the United States. I went to West Palm Beach. I mean, it was cheaper to buy stuff in their grocery store than it was here in Amenia. So it just feels like we're constantly paying the highest possible price, and whether it's because we're rural, we're in New York State, and we have high taxes everywhere, but it
Some of
also
it is we don't have
feels
any
like
competition.
yeah. Now there are apps that you have that tell you what kind of pricing you can
Gas
get.
Buddy, yeah.
Gas Buddy, but not everybody's carrying a cell phone with apps,
No.
right?
Nope.
But that would be, your only option other than driving around. All right. Call Bill. Ask him to get that app.
I have it.
You have it?
That's good. That's all I have.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Public comment?
Good evening, Cheryl Morse, Amenia resident again. I'm bringing up the issue, something that troubles me about the change of the transfer station. It doesn't seem to me that anybody did a comparative analysis of the site where the transfer station exists now and where it's going to be. I have been doing some research on my own, and the Welsh site sits next to a classified trout stream that is also a trout spawning area for native trout that's fed by Arrowhead Lake and Crystal Lake. Also, there is not an adequate buffer, and my concern is, since Supervisor Flood stated at one of the previous meetings that you can't get sealed containers for transfer stations, that during high periods of runoff and rain, leachate will travel and end up in that stream. And there are a couple of issues regarding the change of water temperature during high episodic rains, as well as if there is leachate and it goes into the stream, how it will affect that aquatic life. As a former member of the town CAC, I'm very troubled by the fact that the CAC did not do a comparative analysis of both sites, because when you look at the relative sensitivity of the Welsh site compared to where the transfer station sits now on the Gromax property, the Welsh site also sits in the primary lower basin of the aquifer, which to me would seem a little more sensitive, or rather more sensitive than where the site now stands. I'm also disappointed that the Housatonic Valley Association's watershed coordinator has not looked into this issue. So I am working on a comparative analysis study, because if something does happen, I would like the town to be aware of the differences and also the impacts and what might occur in the future. I don't think, unfortunately, it's my opinion that the issue was not studied enough. And I'm very disappointed by that fact, because usually the CAC is really on top of this stuff. But I know there are other agendas here regarding the issue of the transfer station, so I don't know if that comes into play or not, but I had to make this comment. Secondly, with regard to disaster management, I had taken training some years ago when I did AmeriCorps service as a Red Cross shelter operation manager. The Red Cross does offer training. I could update mine. Maybe some other people would be interested. It wouldn't be a bad idea, given how far out we are here, to have somebody in the community who could do that. And should we have a situation where we have a disaster that really affects the town, that someone could take responsibility, work with the Red Cross, and be able to be mobilized when it happens. I know I happened to be at state parks when 9/11 hit, and I was mandated to stay because I was the only person in this region in state parks who had that training. And I was even told that they would keep me there with law enforcement so that I would be there to operate the shelter should they have had to evacuate New York City, because the plan was they didn't know if there was going to be further attack, and they were going to evacuate New York City by train and bring everybody up here to the state parks and the national park and set up tent cities. So I understand the magnitude of a serious disaster like that, and I think that's something that would be of benefit to the town if we did something like that. So thank you.
Tom Hunter. I'd first like to congratulate you on behalf of all the veterans that you are recognizing. So they're all appreciative. The next item was the Main Street grant. Will you, Bill, and CJ recluse yourself from that decision making? Okay, and the Kent Hollow, it's Harlem Valley?
No.
Kent Hollow is not, it's a separate, Kent Hollow is a different mining company altogether. They are not locally based. The owner is in Connecticut.
Kent Hollow is, Harlem Valley is owned by Ian Holback
Yeah.
on Kent Road. Kent Hollow is up further. You know where
Kent Hollow's over by the apartments, the brown.
right, you know where the apartments are, the brown apartments, the condominiums or whatever they were? You know where Vicky lives?
They're across the street from Clark Hill Road.
All right.
If you know where Clark Hill
This is Amenia Sand and Gravel, basically.
No.
No.
They're
Amenia
not the
Sand and
same
Gravel's
thing?
Leedsville.
No.
Completely different.
Okay, well, I wanted to be sure I was talking, you know, that you were talking about the same thing. If you set the requirements, will that not affect the present?
Mean the zoning?
Yeah. You're changing the zoning to affect one individual. And
It's already changed. They already allowed it to move forward. So he just has to get a special use permit. We're not changing the zoning.
One's in the soil mining overlay and one is not. That's the
but there's
difference.
some question about whether the other one was in the
Oh, it's in.
original.
Oh,
one.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
They were in early on. Yeah.
I was
That was 3 years ago. They
quite involved in it when it took place. And the other thing that you mentioned was the transportation. Jan will bring us the car anytime you want it if you have a driver. Anytime. I've driven it for many, many years. So they, of course, Father Time has caught up with me. And, it's available to you. All you have to do is ask. If you call one day, she'll drop the car off the next. And then they'll pick it up when you're finished. So it's
So we need
available.
volunteers. We need volunteers to drive cars.
And I'd like to ask also, and I'm in favor of John having all the help that you could give him, because he's done things that haven't been done in 20 years.
You're talking John Fenton?
Yes.
Absolutely.
He's done a great job.
Now, he hasn't been here long, but
No.
he's sure turned over a bunch of leaves.
Yeah.
And not all of them have been satisfactory, but he's trying hard. And he's the only one that's really trying to stay by the law. Whatever the law says, he tries to go by. I don't say he does all the time, but he's the best we have ever had.
We know.
And if he needs help, I don't know where you're going to get the money to pay for it, but if he needs it, I certainly believe we should have it.
It's in his budget.
Well, there's no reason.
Yeah, he was just
Right.
looking for
Just-
a backup person in case he wasn't available.
Okay.
It wasn't an assistant to him, it was someone to fill in.
Just to fill in.
Yeah, well, I couldn't compliment him enough. And perhaps it'll be over giving me a citation, but that doesn't matter.
We could arrange that.
Beg pardon?
We could arrange that.
I'm sure. Thank you.
Okay, Marilyn Noe, again, Amenia. I've got a couple of questions. Regarding the rail trail, are there any signage restrictions at all on the rail trail itself? The reason I ask is, on the weekends, I often talk with people from the city or people who are rail trail users, and they mention when they come into town that they're surprised by all the various restaurants, et cetera, that are now taking place. And if it's possible, if you can consider it, some kind of a sign. They mentioned they have no idea that they're in Amenia, even if they heard that there was restaurants in Amenia. Some kind of a sign, maybe advertising all the restaurants or the businesses or something, so that people know to, come down Mechanic Street and then go, go up the various, and I just wondered, does anyone know of any signage restrictions?
Yeah, you have to have permission from Dutchess County Parks.
Okay,
In the
well,
state of New
could
York.
you get that?
We're working on it.
Okay.
So it's not something that comes automatic. In fact, Maureen Rooney's been working on a design for a sign for a while at this point too,
I'll
that we
have to
can.
ask her about that.
Yeah,
Right.
so what I'm saying is this is like the second or third time. I encounter these people when I'm walking our dog.
Plus the rail trail sign's been down for, what, months?
Okay,
It's
so
difficult, though, because
who is going to
Where is it?
re-erect that?
I would hope the highway department. It's been
Okay.
down since they did that sidewalk work.
Right, I agree with you, I've noticed the same thing. Also, when is the next wastewater meeting, and I'm presuming that's open to the public?
Yes,
For the
thank
sewer
you.
district, right?
That is on Monday. The next sewer district sewer meeting is 5 PM on Monday, the 12th. Thank you for bringing
Okay,
that up.
and is that going to be televised on Channel 22?
We don't have
No.
plans to. What I do have written down from the agenda was a decision of the EFC. Hopefully that will have been made, whether or not this new proposal here at the town hall to have the site here would be eligible for the hardship funding, which would be the 0% loan, 0% financing. And then something about the property that was, the county was looking to buy for the town sewer system, but not, town wasn't gonna buy it. And a personal survey canvas, so they're gonna talk about going door to door.
Is that the Kornecki property?
Yes.
That's been purchased by someone else.
Right, I'm
Hasn't.
just saying that's what is on the agenda.
Has not been
so-
purchased by someone else.
I don't know, but at any rate, that's what I have written down. Is that right, Darlene? Is
Yes.
it-
Well, there was a buyer who signed a contract and put money down.
Contract wasn't signed, nor was money put down.
Sure
I
it was.
talked to Mrs. Cornicky Monday. So the property is available.
Okay, well, regarding the wastewater committee meeting, just so you're aware, it was brought to my attention that regarding on Channel 22, which I'm fortunate enough to receive, only about half of the residents of Amenia actually have Channel 22. So if you're going to advertise meetings, especially something as important as the sewer district, I really think the Millerton News, you want to use Channel 22, but in fairness to the residents that don't receive Channel 22 or, I think you really need to use the media, and I'm, just suggesting Millerton News, just out of fairness to the people that are in the district. I encourage you.
The
all-
readership of the Poughkeepsie, or the Millerton News is very, very minimal.
But there hasn't been a
Leadership.
wastewater meeting
Right.
Yeah.
in some time since we
Right.
had the public meeting.
Yeah, and what
That
I'm
was back
saying
in
is,
September.
this is an important issue to
I
the
know.
the people in the sewer district, and just, to just learn that it's gonna be on the 12th
Yeah.
at 5 PM. I just really don't think that's fair to the, I'm not in the sewer district myself, but, if I was, a participant, I would really be, I would be upset, okay? So, maybe you need to rethink that.
Well, all I can say is that maybe we could put a sign but it's not really designed to be a public meeting. It's an informational gathering and,
Well, wait a minute, informational
know.
gathering for whom though?
It's a committee
for
meeting.
the committee to
But it's open to the
look into
public.
it. But it's open to the public. It's, I was gonna say we could advertise it at Four Brothers with a big sign, with even a handwritten sign, but it might give the impression that it's like an organized public meeting, but it's, for information.
Okay, so
It's-
I guess my next
it's
question
not
is,
a-
when is the next organized public meeting? Or
Yeah.
is that going to be decided on the 12th?
I would think after the 12th, we would know more about it. I think the next step was to maybe go door to door, right? And
Well, I
try and
know-
get some more
I know
information.
I don't think you're ready for that.
For EFC, for funding,
Yeah,
because the
we have no
application-
project without
right.
EFC.
So,
Right.
and there hasn't been a meeting in some time since the public meeting
Right,
in the
exactly.
auditorium. That was the last one.
Right, I
And
know,
we
but,
were supposed to
you know,
hear-
as I said, I'm just thinking of the person who, I'm in the water district, but not the sewer district, and I'm just concerned for those people that, they have another opportunity to view their opinions, et cetera, kind of stuff.
Well, if we have no grant, we have no sewer, so basically. So, I don't know, did Janet confirm that meeting coming up? I know it was in the minutes that I received.
I haven't
but-
heard that we aren't having it, so I don't know. I assume
Yeah.
that it's still on.
Because
Okay.
is the town hall closed that day? Is this a long weekend or not?
Yeah, because it's Veterans Day.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's closed.
that's right, it is closed.
Yeah,
as well,
so
right.
I don't think that was, they may have known that when they said it.
Okay, and I have just one more thing, and I need Vicki and CJ and Victoria's help on this. This is regarding safety concerns regarding the outside lighting at the town hall. In the rear of this building, there is a floodlight that goes down to the stairway that leads to the asphalt pathway that eventually leads to, I call it the basketball court, the old timers in Amenia call it the tennis court. But anyway, this is 2012, and so we're going to call it the tennis court. But what I'm saying is, I broached the question to Darlene and to Mr. Flood. I have a whole email trade, this was first brought to their attention back in late September.
What was? About, there is a
about
light
my
there.
safety, my concern about.
Okay, so there is a light, a floodlight there.
Right,
It's
but
not
it's
lit?
not operational. Okay, I went out just within the last hour. I left and just to test, and
So the
again,
bulb
it's not
needs to
on.
be
You
replaced?
replace the
Yeah, I
bulbs.
don't know whether it's the bulb or whatever, but what I'm saying is I have a whole series of emails that were sent to either Mr. Flood or to Darlene, and it still remains
So we just need to have somebody take a look at it.
take a look at it. But the
Okay.
thing is if people will just understand that there are people in town who have no vehicles. They have no buses or not buses. They don't have any trucks or cars or whatever. And that pathway is regularly used by Freshtown employees, by people who, as I said, they have no vehicles, et cetera, kind of stuff. So, and also, as we all know, this time of year on the Eastern Standard Time, it gets darker that much quicker. Early in the morning, it's still fairly dark, and the Freshtown employees, I believe they start arriving at 7. So, I mean, they're going up and down that stairway, and I would presume it might be a liability issue. But
Okay,
more
we'll
importantly,
have
public
somebody look at it.
Well, I know.
to see-
Well,
to see what we
again,
need
I've
to do.
asked,
Well,
and-
this is the first time hearing about it, so
Okay,
we'll have
Take care of it.
someone, we'll take care of it.
okay. Well, it just,
I mean, as far as, I
Actually, I
mean,
spoke to the electrician the other day, they're coming. So,
So it's more than a burnt out
Victoria,
light.
there was an
I don't know,
email-
they checked, we've had trouble with it before. They put it's a new fixture last fall, and it's never really worked right since they put it up. So it's the same way with there's another fixture that's gotta be out here. That's, actually, I was gonna talk to Darlene to figure out what kind of fixture we need for that, because you need two
Outside the
by
front door?
auditorium doors also. So I don't know what kind of fixture you want. The board wants, there is no fixtures there. So I don't know what was there.
Just one last comment. There was a memo to the entire town board, 10, 15, 12, addressing this, okay?
okay.
All right. So I'd really appreciate for everybody's safety if it could be repaired as soon as possible. Thank you.
That's it?
Have you received the thing from the county for the regulations for rec director yet?
Yep.
Are you going to advertise?
Soon as we're meeting with the health department next Thursday, I think at 10 o'clock, to make sure that we have the correct material that's needed.
And I could get somebody in by January, the new year.
Well, we're gonna try.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Is that it?
Well, actually, no, I'm just going to make one comment.
Yeah.
Cheryl Morse, and I'm going to write her an email about this, but the statement she made about as far as the zoning goes in relation to the transfer station, the buffered valley bottom aquifer that she said was more restrictive, it's actually considered less restrictive, and it says it right in the zoning text, because generally there's town water supply available, so it's considered less restrictive. So I know that's something we'd actually said
So there's
publicly.
two different zonings that.
Well, there's two, but
The current one is in
So
which-
the underlying district is the primary valley bottom aquifer.
Okay.
The current transfer station and where it's proposed to go, they're both within that. The Welsh site is within this buffered valley bottom,
okay.
but according to our zoning, that's considered less restrictive, and I just wanted to point that out.
So it's slightly less
I mean,
environmentally sensitive,
yes.
according to our zoning.
Yes.
Nowhere you put it is great. So, but it's gotta go somewhere. We need a motion, are we all done? That's it? I need
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Thank you.